All right, so I'm going to get started as we enjoy our snacks, but my name is Steph. I am a physical therapist, and I work at Concierge Physical Therapy in Sutton. It's right on 146, 211 Worcester Providence Turnpike. We just opened our new building, which has been awesome, and so I wanted to come down here and kind of provide a little bit of education and some resources for anyone who either enjoys exercising and wants to continue pursuing it, or hates exercising and wants to maybe initiate it, or is somewhere kind of in the middle. I know everyone has mixed experiences and feelings about exercising, and I'm hoping to turn more of a positive spin on exercising and everything like that. And just a little background on me, I've been a PT for 8 years. I've been at Concierge for 2.5 years now. I'm the clinic director there, and we have 6 clinicians total, and we're actually opening up our 4th site in Northborough this summer. But we are a really young and vibrant staff, and we love what we do, and we get to work with awesome people like Wally and Paul here and Bev. So we're all very passionate about not just exercise, but getting people able to do the things that are important to them, right? It's not just about, oh, let me do these exercises. It's about making it transferable so that you're better able to do the things that bring you joy in your own personal life, right? That's what matters more than anything else. You know, anyone can say, let's do some bicep curls and let's do some hamstring stretches and whatever, but if it doesn't transfer to anything that's like important and meaningful to you, then it's really not gonna get you very far. So that's kind of my pitch for why I get to do and why I'm happy to get to do what I do. So today we're going to talk about exercise and why it's important, and differentiating a couple of different types of exercise and why each plays a really important role in kind of daily living and functioning and everything like that. So before we get started, a couple of statistics for everybody. So regular exercise can reduce the incidence of osteoarthritis by 83%. It can also reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, stroke by 35%. It's been shown to reduce the risk of breast cancer by 20%, and also reduce the risk of hip fracture by 68%. So just a couple of not so fun or fun facts for you guys. So I love this. I can't believe I forgot to go to the gym today. That's 7 years in a row. So clearly exercising isn't super fun and enjoyable for a lot of people, and that feels pretty common because when I Googled why do we exercise, I read a lot of things like this. So again, hoping to kind of change the way we view things like that. I want to highlight some of the benefits of exercising overall, specifically in older adults, so anyone 65 and older. I want to talk a little bit about how are we doing, like as a community, as a country, at achieving the exercise recommendations. What are some of the barriers to exercising? Like why aren't we good at it? And then how do we overcome those those barriers to exercising? And then we're going to kind of differentiate the difference between cardiovascular exercise and resistance exercise, and then kind of set the stage for how we're going to pursue exercise in our daily lives. So some of the benefits of exercising. In general, exercising stimulates bone growth, which can help with diagnoses like osteoporosis, osteopenia. It can prevent fractures, and prevent kind of the severity of a fall leading in a breaking of a bone versus not leading to a breaking of a bone. It burns calories, so it's great for weight loss. It improves the cardiovascular system, the efficiency. It provides more oxygenation to your muscles and flowing throughout your body. It can improve your mood, right? It releases all these positive endorphins and serotonin and all these good chemicals that kind of elevate your mood, make you in a better mood. It can improve your sleep quality, right? If you're active and moving throughout the day, when you go to bed, you're going to be more tired and then sleep better at night. And I don't know about you, but if I don't sleep well, everyone's paying the price the next day. So sleep quality is very important. It can help with improved brain function. It can reduce your stress levels. It can impact your cardiovascular system. It's helpful for your GI system. And it can also help with things like diabetes because it makes your body more sensitive to insulin, which is the chemical that kind of dictates the level or severity of diabetes that you might have. So specifically for benefits of exercise in older adults, so back in 1975, the average life expectancy was about 70 years old. And here we are in, well, this statistic is from 2022, but the average life expectancy has gone up 8 years. So we're living longer lives. So why does that matter? It matters because we want to live longer, healthy lives, right? Just because you're living longer doesn't mean your quality of life is good. So it's important as we age and as the life expectancy in general increases that we're making sure that we're taking steps to live good, healthy, high-quality lives. So exercising in older adults, it can be a protective factor for cardiovascular disease, preventing stroke, preventing or reducing the severity of diabetes, and reducing the risk of cancer. So those are all some pretty big, heavy-hitting things that can impact our health. In addition, exercising can delay the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's. So I know that a lot of people have family histories or things like that that could impact them, and that's a pretty tough diagnosis to end up with. So anything we can do to reduce the risk is something that most people are going to want to pursue. Exercising in general in our older adult populations can reduce the risk of falling by 21%. And we all know sometimes, falling at any age can be daunting and difficult and come with it a whole slew of health issues, but as we get older, falls can even pack more of a punch. So when I talk about consistent exercise, that's 150 minutes a week, which sounds like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But that's really only 30 minutes of exercise 5 days a week. No matter which way you cut it. If you want to do a couple hours a few days a week, but 150 minutes a week is what people consider to be regular exercise, and that's kind of our gold standard for what we're looking to pursue. And with that being said, 21.4% of the population is inactive, which is a pretty big chunk of people. So in general, in terms of our older adults, who's getting this done? Who's accomplishing this 150 minutes a week of exercise? Well, it's not looking great for us. Only 17% of men and 14% of women ages 65 and older in 2021 reported to get the appropriate amount of exercise. So that's pretty poor. So that's another reason that I'm here today to talk about this, because we're not doing a great job of committing to and pursuing exercise as we need to, despite all these health benefits. So we got to figure out a way to do better. It's estimated to be even less for resistance type exercise. So yikes, we gotta work on that. So there's a lot of reasons that people aren't pursuing exercise and engaging in exercise the way that they should. So some of those barriers. I don't know about you, but I like to watch TV, I like to read, I like to go out to dinner, I like to do a lot of things that are sedentary. So that's a big barrier, right? Socially, a lot of times we're not saying, hey, Bev, you want to go for a walk? We're saying, hey, Bev, you want to go grab a cup of coffee? You want to go see a movie? Those things can be a little bit more enticing, some of those sedentary activities. Weather can be a barrier, right? It's snowing outside, I'm not going for a walk. I'm not driving down to the gym. I'm not going to the senior center to do my chair yoga class. Pain. Exercise can be painful, right? If we're not doing a good job and exercising appropriately, then a lot of the things and the ways we're trying to move can be painful. And if I experience pain, I'm going to stop doing whatever's painful. So that means I'm not doing that exercise anymore because it hurts. Fear of injury, right? So even if I'm not in pain, what if I screw something up? What if I wind up in pain because I'm doing it wrong? It's easier just not to even go there. People on a fixed income, gym memberships, classes, they can be expensive. Equipment, all those things can add up. So if we're not finding a good way that's economically enticing, then that's another barrier to achieving exercise. Cognitive status, isolation, and time, right? There's a lot of things I want to do in my day, so carving out the amount of time needed to exercise isn't always at the top of my priority list. Also, if anyone has any questions at any time, please flag me down, tell me to be quiet, raise your hand, do whatever. I'm more than happy to answer. So that being said, we have all these things that are working against us. So what are we going to do about that? Overcoming these barriers. So we have a lot of options, right? If you're worried about injuring yourself, if you're in pain, if you're not really sure where to start, it's always a good idea to seek out a healthcare provider. Your primary care, your local PT, whoever that may be, finding someone who it's their actual job to be able to appropriately allocate exercise to you. That's a great way to say, I want to get started, I don't know how, help, right? That's why people specialize in these things. Physical therapists, personal trainers, other healthcare practitioners can assess kind of how you're doing and what are the areas that could improve upon, right? What are your areas of weakness? What are some ways that we can avoid injury? You know, how can we best cater to meet your needs? Finding free types of exercises, right? You guys have access to an awesome programs here with chair yoga and Tai Chi and functional strength classes, and seeking out senior centers and starting at a place where you can take a class for free and try it out at no risk or cost to you is a great place to start. Starting simple and starting with a little bit. It's always easier to build from little and go higher than it is to start way up here and then have to dial back because something bad happened, right? So starting with 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, starting with 2 days a week and just picking something and saying, I'm gonna give this a shot and see what happens, and then working your way up from there is always a good idea. Putting things in your schedule, right? For me, if I don't write something down, it will never get done. So exercise is the same way. Write it down. Make a commitment. Say on Tuesdays at 10:30, like I'm gonna go for my 30-minute walk with my neighbor. That's how I'm gonna overcome that barrier of finding the time in our busy schedules to prioritize exercising. Do it with a friend, right? I know for me, I'm a very social person. So if I can do something with some friends or like get together and make it more enjoyable, then that's always the route that I'm gonna go down, because it's way more fun to do it with somebody else and somebody who's gonna hold me accountable to getting done what I need to get done. So a couple of things to look out for when you are exercising, right? There's normal response that our bodies have to exercising, and then there's abnormal response. And so we need to be able to differentiate the two so that we know that we're exercising safely and not going to be put at risk to injure ourselves or anything like that. So with normal response to exercise, that means your heart rate, or the number of time your heart beats per minute, is going to increase, right? We're getting things pumping, we're moving, we're elevating our heart rates because our heart is working harder to facilitate blood flow to our muscles that are actively engaging. Increased respiratory rate, so that's the number of breaths you take per minute. So that's going to increase, that's expected, because again, getting our heart pumping, getting our bodies moving, expending more energy, everything like that. Increased blood flow, which could lead to like warmth, sweating, things like that, that's all normal. Increased blood pressure within reason is normal. That's, you know, as you exercise, as your heart's working harder, your blood pressure is going to elevate. Just making sure it's not elevating too much is important. Post-exercise muscle soreness, and this is the one nobody likes. So if you have gone from doing no exercise in your life to then saying, 3 days a week, I'm gonna do a 20-minute walk. The first 3, 4, 5, 6 times, you're going to feel sore afterwards. And that's okay, right? It's not what anybody wants to hear, but if you're activating muscles for the first time intentionally or differently or to a stronger capacity, there's going to be some soreness because those muscles aren't used to doing what you're asking them to do right now. Now that's not to say I want you down and out for the count for 6 days after you try to go for a walk one time. But if you have 1 or 2 days of soreness afterwards, that's good. That means you've worked your muscles. That means you're accomplishing something. If it's looking like 4, 5, 6 days, all right, we need to dial things back. But a couple of days worth of soreness in those muscles when you're engaging them for the first time again, that's okay. Achiness, muscle tightness, all those kinds of things are what we would expect for someone who's starting a new exercise program or progressing an exercise program. So abnormal response to exercise, or a reason to say, hey, I need to call my doctor, I need to shift gears, I need to do something differently. Lightheadedness, that's never something you should experience while you're exercising. Significant or like large changes in heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, that kind of stuff, We're not looking for that either. Within reason, we're looking for a little bit of increase in cardiac output, but we're not looking for anything crazy that's going to have a significant impact on your health. Pain is never normal after exercise. Muscle soreness is okay. Pain, this hurts, this is sharp, I'm getting numbness and tingling, those things are never normal for exercise, and that's a reason to say, hey, I should probably call somebody and address this for real. Chest pain, headaches, severe sweating, all those things, they're not the desired outcome from exercise. So if that's happening and you're trying to start a program, again, always would say better to be safe than sorry and talk to somebody who has a little bit more knowledge about exercise and ways to change things so that this isn't happening. So now we're going to kind of differentiate the two major types of exercise. So the first type is resistance exercise. And this is exercise that's meant to strengthen muscles and increase endurance. And it can come from free weights, bands, weighted machines, or just your body weight, right? If anyone here has ever tried to do a push-up, right? That's just my body weight, but man, it feels really tough. There's a lot of resistance there when I'm trying to get down and do a push-up. So that is resistance training. I'm working on the strength and endurance and muscle mass of a specific muscle group, right? Any of those machines you see at the gym, that's all resistance training. You pick up a pair of dumbbells, that's resistance training. You use one of those TheraBands that we all know and love, that's all resistance training. So we're isolating certain muscles, getting them stronger, and working on them. And typically when you're doing resistance training, you're focusing on upper body, lower body, or core. So you're trying to kind of figure out which muscle groups you're mostly exercising and using some level of resistance in order to get them to be stronger and more active. Cardiovascular exercise. And that's exercise that's focused on increasing your heart rate and your respiratory rate. So walking, jogging, gardening, using the elliptical, swimming, any of those kinds of things. That's the focus of the exercise, is to get your heart pumping a little bit more and get your heart rate going and kind of get globally your muscles activated and moving. It increases your oxygen and blood flow and uses your large muscle groups repetitively and rhythmically to kind of increase that cardiovascular output. And so within cardiovascular exercise, there's like fat burning exercise and cardiac exercise. And cardiac exercise is focused more on like getting your heart rate really going, like you're burning energy really quick. Like if you go for a run, or anyone who just ran the Boston Marathon, things like that, that's like high cardiac output. Versus fat burning is a little bit lower of a range of your heart rate elevation, and that's kind of the area of your body that it's targeting. So targeting kind of lean muscle mass building versus targeting fat loss and fat reduction. So here's my pitch for physical therapy. So PTs specialize in exercise, right? Someone comes in for a PT evaluation, and we're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna become fast friends, right, Beth? Right. Fast friends. And we talk about what your goals are. Like, what are you looking to get out of being here? Are you unable to pick up your grandson? Are you unable to go up and down a flight of stairs easily or without pain? We're gonna talk about the things that are important to you that you're unable to do, and then gauge exercises and hand-on techniques as appropriate. We're going to look at and assess any painful areas. We're going to look at muscle flexibility, strength, mobility, all that kind of stuff, and figure out what areas of your body need exercise. What areas of your body need to be stretched out? What needs to be strengthened? What needs to be made more durable and made so that your endurance is better in certain movements? And then we're able to monitor your response to exercise, right? We can look at your heart rate and your blood pressure and your respiratory rate and your oxygen saturation and make sure that as we're exercising, those things are moving and changing in the appropriate manner and you're not having symptoms associated with it. The other thing we're able to do is progress or regress exercises as appropriate. So if you say, hey Steph, we just did that bunch of exercises last time and I didn't feel anything. I felt great afterwards. It was like I didn't do anything. then I can say, hey, Wally, we're going to make that so much harder today, and you're going to regret ever saying that to me. Or if you come in and say, like, hey, I was down and out for 5 days, that's never an answer I want. So we're able to kind of take a look at things and say, let's dial it back here, let's modify here, let's adjust things here. So, PTs are a great jumping off point because we can help you to establish a home program that will meet the needs of your body and cater to what you're looking to get out of things. And it's a great place for accountability, right? Wally's coming in and he's seeing us once a week, and on Wednesday mornings he's there, rain or shine, and he knows that that's a time where he's dedicating to exercise, right? And so a lot of times having someone or something to hold you accountable is a big barrier to exercising. But if you know you have to show up to an appointment and I'm going to kick your butt for a little bit, you know that, like, hey, I'm going to account in my schedule that this is a time where I'm going to prioritize my health. And I like to think we have a lot of fun doing it. So there's my pitch on that. So in terms of setting yourself up for success, if you're going to go and start an exercise program, which I highly encourage everyone to do, there's a couple of things that are going to ensure that it's going to go smoothly and there's not going to be any negative outcomes from it. So first, hydration, right? If we're exercising, we might be sweating. We're going to be getting rid of a lot more fluid than if we're just staying stationary during the day. So drinking water before, during, and after exercise is incredibly important. Along with that, appropriate nutrition, right? We need to be fueling our bodies well if we're going to be burning calories and being active and moving, because we need the fuel in order to sustain that movement, that exercise, all those good things. Stretching. Anytime anyone is going to exercise, whether it be going for a walk or picking up some weights and doing some things, stretching is really important. People strain and pull muscles all the time, and more often than not, it's because they were trying to do something without warming up first, or stretching, or getting their joints moving before they just dive right into some strength training. You can monitor your heart rate or your respiratory rate with like a watch, a Fitbit, or you can do the old-fashioned way of putting your finger on top of your wrist, checking your pulse, and making sure it's not going too crazy. Warming up and cooling down, that goes along with stretching, is you don't want to go from 0 to a billion, right? We don't want to go from standing still to sprinting around the building. If you're going to go for a brisk walk, maybe you spend 5 minutes walking slowly, or doing a couple of different sit to stands from a chair, something to get your muscles nice and loose before you go into the true, substance of whatever exercise you're going to be participating in. Consulting a medical professional if appropriate. If you have a lot of health issues going on, it's important to get checked out and make sure that you're healthy enough to start a new exercise routine, and maybe talking about what exercises would be great, what maybe you should hold off on, like where to start. That's always a good idea. And then, like I said before, starting slow and building your way up is always my first recommendation, because you can always add more. It's really hard if you get yourself into a position where you've overdone it to kind of start back from square one and build up that way. So what now? Schedule a time, make a plan, commit to it, write it in your calendar, follow through with your plan. Everybody here deserves to have and live with good health, and we only have an impact over certain parts of our health, right? We can't change genetics, and we can't change something we were born with, and we can't change normal age-related body changes. But the things we can impact, like our exercise and moving and things like that, like, let's do better at improving upon that and making our health something we take ownership of. Find a buddy, find an accountability partner, find somebody that's going to make exercise more fun. Join a class. I've heard amazing things about your group exercise classes here. So, that's a great place to start. Pick a form of exercise that you enjoy. And this is something I feel really passionate about. There's a million different ways to be active, right? I mentioned gardening, chasing your grandkids around the park, like whatever it looks like to you that's going to keep you engaged and keep you coming back for more. There's no form of exercise that's like this is the be all and end all. This is what's going to really, improve my health. Do something that you're going to enjoy so that you'll stay consistent with it. If I don't enjoy something, I'm not going to do it. But if I enjoy something, I have no problem coming back for more. So that's like the easiest way to make sure that you're going to stick to a plan that you come up with. Work your way up to the appropriate amount of exercise and frequency, right? I know we talked about 150 minutes a week. Don't start there. Start at 45 minutes a week, right? Start with something tangible and that you can say, I know I can do this, and I'm going to start here and work my way up to that recommended 150 minutes a week. It takes 21 days to create a new habit, right? So for the first 21 days, you're going to have to force yourself to do it. It's not going to come intuitively. It's not going to be something you say, oh, I can't wait to go for my morning walk. But after, a month or so, it's going to just be part of your routine, and you're going to feel good and say, I can't even start my morning until I go on that walk with Sally down the street. Those are the kinds of things that are going to make it more manageable. Just knowing that, hey, I'm going to have to kind of muscle through this for a little bit, but then it's going to become really natural and going to become part of my routine, like anything else. So just a few concluding thoughts. Exercise has a significantly positive impact on overall health, right? There's a reason everybody talks about exercise. There's a reason it's a buzzword. There's a reason everybody's saying, get your physical activity in, it's really important. It is, and it has these substantial impacts on health conditions that are pre-existing and preventing new health issues from arising. It's particularly important in older adults as some of these health conditions can become more prevalent. So any way we can to avoid them is always a good plan. Both cardiovascular and resistance exercise are vital and very, very important to your overall health and wellness. And despite barriers to adding exercise into your life, it is possible. It just takes a little bit of time and attention, and it takes a little bit of effort. So as I said before, seeking a healthcare provider if you need to get going, but I cannot pitch to you enough the importance of participating in regular exercise and all the health benefits that it can come with. So that being said, does anyone have any questions, comments? Oh, yes.
That setting up for success panel kind of answered a couple of my questions about stretching before you work out and after, huh?
Yeah, so, there's mixed camps about stretching and everything like that, but I'm a big proponent of before and after, right?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of...
Warming up beforehand, getting your muscles
Makes
nice and
sense,
loose and moving before, and then cooling down after I've exercised and used my muscles, re-stretching them out again so that we maintain that good mobility and get those muscles a little more relaxed before we go back to doing whatever we do throughout the day. Yeah.
And what about ice or heat? Say you get a small injury, maybe your healthcare provider says maybe come in a week or something, you want to deal with it now.
Yeah.
What's your schedule? I mean, some people say ice in the beginning, then after 24 hours just use heat or something. Do you have an opinion on that?
I do, yes. So an acute injury, right, so anywhere from like day of to like 7 to 10 days later, ice is usually the plan because you have a lot of inflammation that occurs after an initial injury, and so reducing that inflammation and kind of constricting your blood vessels so that there's not as much blood flow and inflammatory processes moving to that area is really important. And then if something becomes more chronic in nature, heat is typically the way to go. The other thing is, after being more active and exercising and doing something, and you experience like a muscle strain or whatever, kind of ice is after exercise typically, and heat is like similar to the concept of warming up. You would use heat before you were going to exercise, but ice is for afterwards, especially if there's an injury.
Thank you.
Of course.
What kind of exercise? You have regular exercise and resistant exercise. Do you divide the two in your exercise routine?
Yes.
50 or, I mean?
Yeah, so in that like 150 minute situation, yeah, so typically you're shooting for about 50% of each. And that can be either like one day you do cardiovascular and one day you do resistance, or if you want to mix it in, both are beneficial, and whichever way kind of doing it is more manageable for you. There's not like a doing every other day is the best way to do it, or anything like that, but yes.
All right, what about taking like Tylenol or Motrin after you exercise?
Yeah. Sure, so, I would say I wouldn't take it preventatively. I wouldn't take it anticipating that something's going to hurt.
Okay.
But if you do have a lot of muscle soreness afterwards, yeah, Advil or an NSAID like that can be helpful. It can help to reduce some of that. As you know, it's more of a Band-Aid than fixing any type of problem. But if you're like, man, I'm really hurting after that, then there's no downside to doing it. I would say if you're consistently feeling that level of soreness after exercising, then you may be overdoing it. It might be worth looking into kind of dialing things back or figuring out, like, why am I feeling this sore? Does that make sense? Yes.
What are the odds that we could get you to come back and maybe have you show us some different stretches, maybe some things that would be effective for us as like another part of the series? I don't know if that's
Yeah, the odds are very good.
Oh.
The odds are very
Okay,
good.
okay.
I would say about 100%.
So maybe, if we got this core group back,
Yeah.
we could, show them some effective. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do that. I did actually a class at Briarley Pond in Millbury, and we had a really good time. So, yeah. I mean, you can ask them if they had a good time, but I had a great time. That's right.
How do you know what kind of exercise you need?
So, I would say I have a couple of responses to that. So, any area in your body that you notice either feels weak when you're trying to do something throughout your day, like if you're going up and down stairs and you're like, oh, my quad is really hurting. Like, there's a reason. Or if you're saying, I can't put like one foot over the other. Like, why is that? Like, probably something in your knees or hips is preventing you from being able to do that. Like, it's a weakness or an injury or something like that. So a lot of times, like, an area of weakness could be painful. It might feel tight. It might feel like it's preventing you from being able to do something that you should be or previously were able to do. I would say that, all the major muscle groups are good areas to focus on if you're just looking for like a general strengthening program. But if there was a certain area that you're like, oh, it's not working right, it's not doing what I need it to do, that would be a great time to either seek out your doctor or a personal trainer or a class or a
That was
PT.
my next question. Okay.
Yeah, to me, anytime someone has an area where they're like, I can't do this and I used to be able to, like, that's a great time to talk to someone so that they can really assess you and figure out where your deficits are and your areas for growth are.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
What are you feeling on electrolytes?
I think anything when appropriate is okay. I think that if you're not someone who's super low on electrolytes and you're not doing super intense exercise, I don't always see the need for it. But if you're someone who is low on whatever it may be, then great option to kind of help with that. And also if you've done like any level of intense exercise or been really sick or dehydrated and things like that, always a good option. But I think when appropriate, anything is okay. I think there are certain things that are used inappropriately at times. So that would be a conversation with like either a nutritionist or making sure to have blood work done or things like that before kind of taking excess of that. Because a lot of those things we get in our daily nutrition. It's just a matter of making sure we're putting into our body what it really needs versus putting something into our body that it's already getting on its own.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
So how's Wally doing in your class?
I'm sorry, HIPAA's gonna prevent me from that.
Oh, really? I think he looks pretty
But
good.
I think he's doing great.
Yeah.
I think he's doing great. But you'd have to ask him for the truth, because he'll tell you all the,
Well, I can walk this year.
deep,
I
dark
couldn't walk
secrets.
a year, 12 months ago, 13
Yeah,
months ago.
he
I
sings
couldn't
your
walk.
praises all the
Hey,
time.
well, we appreciate having him. So it's a mutual relationship.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you guys having
Thanks
me.
so much.
If anyone has any questions, I have business cards and all that jazz, so just chat with me whenever.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.